Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Glad you're here. It's good to see you. The weekend's here, evening is upon us, and seems like a good time to do a little drinking and a little thinking. So, come join me if you will. I'd be honored if you would. And hopefully, we'll have a good time and learn something today that we didn't know yesterday. So, that being said, cheers to you. And Jesus, too. Oh, yeah. Nothing like a hot Earl Grey. Anyway, just wanted to continue this little series I've been doing about socialism. I'm seeing it praised everywhere. I live in California, so it quite literally is everywhere, and people talk about how great it is, and I look around and I say, this is horrible. And it is horrible. It sucks. I'm not going to lie. It's odd that people praise socialism so much. So, anyway, I was browsing the internet and I came across a meme, and I've seen different variants of this meme throughout the years, but it reminded me of a book I read long ago, and I have it here. Let me share the meme. It's this one, where you have like the protester, socialist, counterculture, person saying that they're basically Viva la Revolution and they're against the system. But and then on the other side, you have all these companies and corporations that are basically agreeing with them, right? Like, oh yeah, we're with you. Well, you ever wonder why that is? You look around, why are all these companies promoting socialism, promoting wokesterism, for lack of a better term? Why is that? You ever wonder? I do. And I have the answer, actually. And it comes from a book that I read a while ago, and I want to share with you guys, called None Dare Call It Conspiracy, by Gary Allen, with Larry Abraham. So I'm assuming he helped write it. Maybe they wrote it together. Not quite sure, but it's a very good book. And there's actually a chapter of the book where they go into that, about why do all these rich people and these billion-dollar companies promote socialism? I mean, it's odd when you think about it, right? Like, you'd think under socialism, how would they work, right? They wouldn't be making all this money. They wouldn't be billion-dollar companies. The power would be in the hands of the people, right? Right? Well, you'll see. You will see. What chapter is this? I think it's chapter 2. Don't quote me on that, though. It is chapter 2. Chapter 2, Socialism, Royal Road to Power for the Super Rich. Interesting. And I'll just read a little excerpt, just the juicy tidbits here, the best part anyway. And it goes something like this. Since all communists and their insider bosses are waging a constant struggle for socialism, let us define that term. Socialism is usually defined as government ownership and or control over the basic means of production and distribution of goods and services. When analyzed, this means government control over everything, including you. All controls are people controls. If the government controls these areas, it can eventually do just exactly as Marx set out to do: destroy the right to private property, eliminate the family, and wipe out religion. We are being socialized in America, and everybody knows it. If we had a chance to sit down and have a cup of coffee with the man in the street that we have been interviewing, he might say, the one thing I can never figure out is why all these very, very wealthy people, like the Kennedys, the Fords, the Rockefellers, and others, are for socialism. Why are the super rich for socialism? Don't they have the most to lose? I take a look at my bank account and compare it with the Nelson Rockefellers, and it seems funny that I'm against socialism and he's out promoting it. Or is it funny? In reality, there's a vast difference between what the promoters define as socialism and what it is in actual practice. The idea that socialism is a share the wealth program is strictly a confidence game to get the people to surrender their freedom to an all-powerful collectivist government. While the insiders tell us we are building a paradise on earth, we are actually constructing a jail for ourselves. Doesn't it strike you as strange that some of the individuals pushing hardest for socialism have their own personal wealth protected in family trusts and tax-free foundations? Men like Rockefeller, Ford, and Kennedy are for every socialist program known to man, which will increase your taxes. Yet they pay little, if anything, in taxes themselves. An article published by the North American Newspaper Alliance in August of 1967 tells us how the Rockefellers pay practically no income taxes despite their vast wealth. The article reveals that one of the Rockefellers paid the grand total of $685 personal income tax during a recent year. The Kennedys have their Chicago Merchandise Mart, their mansions, yachts, planes, etc., all owned by their myriads of family foundations and trusts. Taxes are for peons, yet hypocrites like Rockefeller, Ford, and Kennedy pose as great champions of the downtrodden. If they were really concerned about the poor, rather than using socialism as a means of achieving personal political power, they would divest themselves of their own fortunes. There is no law which prevents them from giving away their own fortunes to the poverty-stricken. Shouldn't all these men set an example and practice what they preach? If they advocate sharing the wealth, shouldn't they start with their own instead of that of the middle class, which pays almost all the taxes? Why don't Nelson Rockefeller and Henry Ford II give away all their wealth, retaining only enough to place themselves at the national average? Can't you imagine Teddy Kennedy giving up his mansion, airplane, and yacht and moving into a $25,000 home with a $20,000 mortgage like the rest of us? We are usually told that this clique of super rich is socialist because they have a guilt complex over wealth they inherited and did not earn. Again, they could relieve these supposed guilt complexes simply by divesting themselves of their unearned wealth. There are doubtless many wealthy do-gooders who have been given a guilt complex by their college professors, but that does not explain the actions of insiders like the Rockefellers, Fords, or Kennedys. All their actions betray them as power seekers. But the Kennedys, Rockefellers, and their super-rich confederates are not being hypocrites in advocating socialism. It appears to be a contradiction for the super-rich to work for socialism and the destruction of free enterprise. In reality, it is not. Our problem is that most of us believe socialism is what the socialists want us to believe it is, a share-the-wealth program. That is a theory. But is that how it works? Let us examine the only socialist countries, according to the socialist definition of the word, extant in the world today. There are the communist countries. The communists themselves refer to these as socialist countries, as in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Here, in the reality of socialism, you have a tiny oligarchical clique at the top, usually numbering no more than 3% of the total population, controlling the total wealth, total production, and the very lives of the other 97%. Certainly, even the most naive observe that Mr. Brezhnev doesn't live like one of the poor peasants out on the great Russian steppes. But, according to socialist theory, he is supposed to do just that. If one understands that socialism is not a share-the-wealth program, but is, in reality, a method to consolidate and control the wealth, then the seeming paradox of the super-rich men promoting socialism becomes no paradox at all. Instead, it becomes the logical, even the perfect tool of power-seeking megalomaniacs. Communism, or more accurately, socialism, is not a movement of the downtrodden masses, but of the economic elite. The plan of the conspirator insiders, then, is to socialize the United States, not to communize it. Interesting. I really hope that brings it home for you all. That's why the super rich, and the names change. You know, he's throwing out Rockefeller and Ford, old money. We have new money now. The names and faces change, but their goals don't. Right now we have Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, Tim Cook, large companies, all these woke companies, soda companies, airline companies, CEOs. They're all promoting socialism. And why is that? Because they want to control things. They want control. They don't want competition. They don't want free markets. They don't want to have to earn an honest living, right? If I'm a soda company and I can get the government to make a bunch of rules and taxes and fees and regulations so that my competitors can't enter into the market or even think about entering into the market, I've got it made. And that's hands down. That's what it is. And he hit the nail on the head. Socialism isn't for the downtrodden. It's for the elite. It's so that they can control us. And that's exactly what happened every time socialism got implemented. In China, in the Soviet Union, Russia, Pol Pot in Cambodia, Cuba, Venezuela, everywhere you look, socialism gets implemented. They try to say it's not real socialism. Okay, well, they're trying real socialism, and that's what happens. Even just trying socialism ends up with people starving and being murdered. Every time, without fail. That's just what happens. Why is that? Because you have evil, rich men and women who are trying to control the rest of us. That's what it's about. It's an evil ideology. And we shouldn't put up with it. So, I hope you realize that. And for those of you who don't believe me, you think socialism is great or whatever, I have a quick thought for you, and I want to share it with you from somebody who lived under socialism. This book is called Escape from the Soviets. And it's written by Tatiana Chernavin. She was alive during the Russian Revolution, and she got to see the aftermath. And she wrote about it. And obviously from the title, she escaped from it. Just a strong, brave woman. And I mean actually strong and actually brave. Unlike these Instagram and Twitter people you see. She was thrown in prison. She was beaten. She was denied medical care. Her husband was in prison. She lost her son. He was not dead, but, she's in prison. Her husband was in prison. Somebody had to take care of the kid. And I don't remember if a family friend or someone took in her son, but as a parent, I can't even imagine what that's like, But she pulled it together. She got out of prison, she got her son back, and she helped her husband escape from the gulag that he was thrown in. Amazing, just an amazing story, and I'm going to link it below. I encourage you all to read it. But I just wanted to share a little chunk with you. I go on for this book for days. Wow. For any of you who think socialism is great, please read this book. This lady lived it. But in the ending, after they escape, spoiler alert, she has some very interesting thoughts, which kind of tie into what this guy with this book was saying. So I wanted to share that with you real quick. Chapter 17, Where's the Crisis? And you got to remember, she lived in a socialist country. She and her family were fed propaganda constantly about how terrible capitalism was. Capitalist countries were low on food. They were hungry. They didn't have medical care. So her escaping, she didn't know what she was getting into, right? Maybe the news was right. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know. But it stinks here, right? You got to put yourself in her shoes. So anyway, the title of the chapter is called Where's the Crisis? And that kind of ties into that, being in a capitalist country doesn't seem so bad after all. Anyway, it reads as follows. Now we were thoroughly taken care of. We were fed, driven from place to place, delicately questioned about our past, and soon dispatched to Helsingfors. We were not yet allowed to mix freely with the Finnish citizens, so our impressions on the way were only derived from what we saw. But life in the USSR teaches one to see things which others would leave unnoticed. In the village beyond the Arctic Circle, we saw stacks of barley, good cows, well-built, warm houses. A fine road ran through marshes, forests, and rocks. Wherever possible, marshes were drained and bits of forest converted into arable land. Red farmhouses with white shutters had flower gardens in front of them. Those farms evidently belonged to new settlers who must have toiled desperately to clear their land from tree stumps and stones. The small Finnish nation, waging a stubborn fight against exceptionally inclement nature, makes it yield more than what the USSR, with all its enormous natural resources, can obtain by forced labor and shootings. In the morning, children rode to school on their bicycles. All were dressed in simple, sound clothes. All looked cheerful and well fed. The motor lorry in which we were traveling went the rate of about 35 miles an hour and did not break down once. Afterwards, we were put in a train. The carriage was clean and tidy. The passengers, looking calm and content, had respectable clothes and carried suitcases. In this, quote, capitalist country, the carriages are one of class, sufficiently comfortable for all. In the, quote, socialistic country, across the frontier, decent carriages are only for the Soviet aristocracy and foreign visitors. Those, for ordinary people, are filthy. And there you have it. Let me read that again. I really want that to sink in, just the last paragraph. Afterwards, we were put in a train. The carriage was clean and tidy. The passengers, looking calm and content, had respectable clothes and carried suitcases. In this capitalistic country, the carriages are of one class, sufficiently comfortable for all. In the socialistic country across the frontier, decent carriages are only for the Soviet aristocracy and foreign visitors. Those for ordinary people were filthy. Sorry if that annoyed you. I just need to repeat that because I want that to sink in. In the capitalist country, people were well fed. They were well taken care of. They were providing one of their enemies, quote-unquote enemies, who's an escapee, with medical care, food, a place to sleep, things that she couldn't even get in her own country, her own socialist country, because socialism wasn't taking care of people. It wasn't doing what it promised to do, and that last paragraph hits the nail on the head. Right there. She said it. The train carriages for the ordinary people are disgusting. They're filthy. Right? But the ones for the Soviet aristocracy, I like how she used that word, the people in charge, or as Gary Allen calls them, the insiders, right? Their train carriages were nice. They were clean. They were fancy. Do you think the leaders of the Soviet Union lived in peasant thatched roof houses like the rest of them? No, of course not. They lived in the mansions that they took from the royalty that they shot. I mean, it's just that's how it is, you know? That's what socialism is. It is not for the little guy. It's not for the masses. It's for the elite. It's so that they can control you, so that they can steal your wealth and take it for themselves, so that they can live in the mansions. They can have the nice cars. They can have the nice food and the good medical care. And you look everywhere else, you say, oh, free health care. Look at the quality of it. They had free health care in the Soviet Union. Look at what happened. And she describes it very well. They didn't have good medical care. Yeah, it was free. It sucked. You know? There was food, free food, if you could get it. You had to stand in line for hours to get it. Here in capitalism, you go to the grocery store. Maybe you wait 5-10 minutes in line to pay for it. Oh no, how terrible. I mean, it's just unreal. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying, don't believe me. Believe Tatiana, who lived under socialism, suffered under socialism, horribly, her and her family, and the millions of others just like her. They saw firsthand exactly what Gary Allen and Larry Abraham are writing about. They experienced it firsthand. Socialism is not for the little guy. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them trick you. That's what they're trying to do. Say one thing, do another. That's what they're about. They're lying to you. Don't get fooled. Don't believe them. Don't get sucked into their lies. Capitalism is the way. It brings prosperity for everyone. Yes, some people will prosper more than others. That's just life, right? But as long as we're all moving in the same general direction, up, I call that a win, right? Under socialism, some people move up a lot, and the rest of us suffer and go down. And you can't argue with that. I mean, you can try, but you'd be wrong, right? Read some history. Read about the people who experienced socialism firsthand. It doesn't work. It's terrible. I mean, just look at this country. Look at how much wealth and wonderful things we've done with this country. Sure, some bad things. I get it. But overall, we've done some pretty good things as a country. We've invented things. We've built things. The standard of living is very high. And that's with capitalism. That's under capitalism. We were able to do that. We became the free nation, the envy of the world. People came here from all over the world for that reason. Why do we have so many immigrants? Because they wanted to be a part of it. You think people would come here if it was bad? They came here for capitalism. Anyway. Socialism bad, capitalism good. Yeah. Well, I'll try not to rant for too long. But anyway, I hope you got something out of that. I just really, man, I'm really passionate about this stuff. So, yeah. Leave me a comment below. I hope you do. Really keeps me going, a little feedback, a little debate. I really like that. So, please do me a favor. Leave a comment. Like the video. Or dislike it. I don't know. Do what you feel like. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope things work out for you. I wish the best. I hope you got something out of this. And, yeah. Check the details and descriptions for any notes and ways to support my channel. And, yeah. I'll keep you all in my thoughts and prayers. And I really just wish the best for you all. So, yeah. And I hope you have a good drink. I hope you enjoy a good drink sometime. Anyway, take care, everyone. Good night.